Imagine waking up tomorrow, and every fear you've ever had is suddenly gone. You stand at the edge of a 100-story building, but your legs don't shake. A deadly snake slithers toward your feet, yet you don't move. Someone points a loaded gun at you, but your heart stays perfectly calm. Sounds like freedom. No fear of failure, no fear of rejection, no fear of death. But what if I told you this might be the fastest way to destroy humanity? Because fear isn't your enemy. It's the reason you're still alive. So, what exactly is fear? Most people think fear is just an emotion, but it's actually one of the oldest survival systems ever created. Millions of years ago, our ancestors lived in a world filled with predators. Every sound in the bushes, every shadow in the dark, could mean death. The humans who reacted the fastest survived. The ones who didn't disappeared. That's why your brain evolved a tiny alarm system called the amygdala. It's about the size of an almond, but it can save your life in a fraction of a second. The moment your eyes detect danger, the amygdala sends an emergency signal through your body. Your heart starts racing, your breathing speeds up, your muscles tighten, your pupils become larger, and within milliseconds, your body prepares to fight or run. This is called the fight or flight response. Fear isn't trying to stop you, it's trying to keep you alive. But what if I told you this isn't just a thought experiment? There was a real person who lived almost completely without fear. Scientists simply called her SM. She suffered from an extremely rare condition called Urbach-Wiethe disease. Over time, the part of her brain responsible for processing fear, the amygdala, was severely damaged, and something incredible happened. She could no longer experience fear like the rest of us. Researchers tested her in every way they could imagine. They showed her snakes, giant spiders, even took her into one of the scariest haunted houses. While everyone else screamed, SM stayed calm. She didn't panic, she didn't run, she simply walked forward, curious about everything. It sounded like a superpower, but it soon became clear it was actually one of the most dangerous conditions a human could have. Living without fear may sound amazing, but everyday life becomes incredibly dangerous. Imagine walking home alone. A dark alley appears ahead. Most people would choose another route. A fearless person wouldn't even hesitate. They might trust complete strangers, ignore warning signs, walk too close to dangerous animals, drive faster than they should, or stand at the edge of a cliff without realizing the risk. Fear isn't just an emotion. It's an invisible alarm that quietly protects you hundreds of times every single day. Here's the tragic reality. Living without fear doesn't make you stronger. It makes you vulnerable. Fear silently protects us from thousands of dangers every single day. It tells us not to text while driving, not to jump from dangerous heights, not to touch wild animals, not to trust every stranger we meet. Remove fear, and suddenly, every bad decision becomes much easier to make. Researchers believe that people who can't experience fear face a much higher risk of accidents, injury, and dangerous situations. Ironically, the emotion most people wish they could eliminate may actually be the reason they survive. Now imagine something even more terrifying. Not just one fearless person, but every human on Earth. 8 billion people, waking up tomorrow without fear. Nobody fears prison, nobody fears getting hurt, nobody fears consequences. At first, it sounds like the world would become fearless, but within hours, chaos would begin. People would ignore traffic lights, climbers would take impossible risks, criminals would no longer fear punishment, wars could start over the smallest disagreements. Even children would stop recognizing danger, hospitals would overflow, streets would become unpredictable. Society doesn't survive because humans are fearless. It survives because fear quietly keeps billions of people under control. Without fear, civilization itself could begin to collapse. But fear isn't always a good thing. Sometimes it stops us from chasing our biggest dreams. Fear makes people avoid taking risks, even when those risks could change the world. Every astronaut who left Earth, every explorer who crossed unknown oceans, every scientist who challenged old beliefs felt fear. The difference was they didn't let fear control them. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward, even when fear is standing in your way. Humanity's greatest achievements were never built by fearless people. They were built by people who learned to master their fear.
Here's the biggest twist.
Fear was never your greatest enemy. It has always been your oldest protector. Every time you stepped away from danger, every time you made a safer choice, every time you survived, fear was quietly doing its job. The real goal isn't to erase fear. It's to understand the difference between fear that protects you and fear that holds you back. Because the people who change the world aren't fearless, they're simply brave enough to move forward despite being afraid. So now I have a question for you. If you could permanently erase just one fear from your life, which fear would you choose? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of losing someone, or fear of death? Let me know your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this thought experiment, subscribe for more videos that challenge the way you see the world.